What up, man? Awesome back here with another video. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing a 13 fishing hat when I ain't even got 13 fishing gear no more. Um, and that's because the red, the white, and what's next? The blue. So, you already know we're getting closer to the end of June, and 4th of July's coming up. So, you already know we celebrate the troops and the freedom of the great United States of America. So I'm trying to rock the red, white, and blue. I even reached in my drawer and dug this wrinkled Nike shirt out just because it was white. Alright, so due to request, I've actually got a video here for you, which obviously I'm here because of video, but this here's a special video for two of y'all. If you all are watching this and you're just like, hey, you do this every time, you can just tell me in the comments what you'd like to see, and I'll be sure to do that for you. Alright, but this here's going to be a rod and reel video, updated arsenal and stuff like that. And I've actually had some bad luck. I went to Laura Lake yesterday and I lost over $400 in crankbaits. Is the boat came by me and I went to cut his wave, and when I did, the boat came up and my crankbaits just went boom. So if y'all find them, it's right before you get to that first island going toward Marsh Branch. When you head out of Craigs Creek, go left and stick to this side in between the bank and the island. And I didn't even know it. I thought I actually left them at home, and turns out I didn't. And I knew a box came out of the boat. I was like, maybe it's a tube box, because that's the one I meant to grab and leave my crankbaits at home. But come to find out, I grabbed my crankbait box and left my tube box at home. So $40 in tubes is still here, and $400 worth of crankbaits is in the lake. That's how it goes. But anyway, rod and reel video where I trade around, I buy, sell, trade all the time. And these here, they suit me. I'm not saying I have the best in the world. If you like Shimano, go Shimano. If you like 13, go 13. But anyway, and for you high school anglers and middle school anglers that is kind of shopping on a budget, I'm going to pick my top three that I'd take anywhere across the country and feel comfortable with, that I feel like I'd have every scenario covered. Alright, so let's get into it. My number one pick that I would take out of the top three lineup would probably be this Castaway Tyrannus rod. This is a 7 foot medium, and I have it, well, got tangled up in my shirt. But I have it paired with a Daiwa Tatula SV. This is a 2020 SV, and I have it with 10 pound, I think, P-Line Tactical Fluorocarbon. If it ain't P-Line Tactical, it's Seaguar Invisex, 10 pound. And I'm going to get into this rod a little bit. I ain't had this rod for very long. You all know that I kind of done an unboxing of it, although it wasn't in a box. But the reason why this would be my number one pick is it's so versatile. I like a medium or medium heavy action rods. I like my rods with a law tip. I like a longer rod because I'm a bigger guy. And this rod, it's just comfortable in the hand. I love it. And the SV, it's just truly amazing. I can fish with this all day long, not get fatigued. It's super light, and it's just an amazing feeling outfit. This here is $100 rod, and it is $189 reel. So if you ain't got the, we're just gonna call it $300, you can go with a Daiwa Tatula CT. Those retail for $129.99. So you're cutting that by $60. So you take 100 and 129. That's going, with tax, that's going to put you knocking at the door about $250. So That's us a little budget type deal. And if you ain't got the money for that, you can actually get you a Daiwa Tatula CT and a Denali rocker rod and a 7 foot. And here's why. That Denali rocker rod, it retails for $59.99, and then your Daiwa Tatula CT retails for $129.99. So you're talking about roughly a $200 combo, and I realized that that's actually kind of perfect for that pretty serious high school angler that's not wanting crap but ain't got the money to spend like $500 on a combo or above that. So I was there, and I still am there. I ain't gonna spend $500 on a combo. I just ain't. But details about this. This here's a 8-1-1, and I would get a 8-1-1 if I was going to get it, because you hear me talk about you can always slow down just like that, but you can only speed up so much. So with this rod and reel or that Denali rocker or that CT, I would put a chatterbait, that's one, a spinner bait, that's two, a crankbait, that's three, a quarter-ounce swim bait head with like a 3.3 or like a 3.8 Keitech, and you'd be just fine. That's why I would prefer that 10 to 12 pound line, because if you're trying to finesse fish with a swim bait, it's great for that. If you're throwing a crankbait, it'll allow it to get deeper and actually dig. And it's just amazing. I mean, of course, you ain't gonna be throwing a 10XD on this rod and reel. It's just not made for that. I mean, the rod just ain't made for that. So when you go to a 10XD, you're gonna need a glass rod. But that wouldn't be in my top three. So that's gonna have you pretty much covered on your power fishing. And if you're a taller guy like myself, you can throw a jerk bait on it, or you can top water fish with it. And instead of the fluorocarbon, I would go monofilament. Alright, so that's got you covered for your chatterbait, your crankbait, spinnerbait, swim bait, jerk bait, and also your top water. So you are knocking out six. Yes, one, two, three, four, five, six. Six baits with just that rod and reel. Alright, my second one I would take around the country with me is actually going to be a spinning rod. And here is where I would put my money. You can get any reel bait casting wise, and it's going to last you a little bit. But here's where I would put majority of my money, and that's getting a good spinning rod and reel. This here is actually the highest rod and reel I own, and that is a Shimano Stratic. And this reel, I cannot say enough about it. Smooth drag, and that's what you're paying for with a spinning combo. Well, a good spinning reel. You're paying for a drag. And if you get them big fish like you see coming out of Lake St. Clair, I've never been fortunate enough to go up there yet, but I would definitely love to. I mean, they catch 4 and 5 pound smallmouth on the daily. Of course, you ain't gonna be throwing this in Florida or Texas, but majority it's gonna have you covered. Put more money in your reel than your rod. So Shimano Stratic, these retail for like $229, I think. Or you can get a Daiwa Tatula, it's $189, but you ain't getting that drag like Shimano has. I would stick with Shimano for a good spinning reel. And you say I'm a Daiwa man. But this here's a 7'6" medium light custom by Dixie Custom. I had it custom made. It's a Tennessee handle. That's why you see us tape. And that's basically because it's just a rod. It ain't got a reel seat on it. And this here you can drop shot with. You can float a worm with. You can swim bait fish with it when you go down to like your 16ths, and 1/8 ounce, and your 2.8 Kitex. So drop shot, floating worm, small swim bait. You can actually go Ned rig on this rod, and I mean, I like a smaller Ned rig, so it ain't go. If you don't mind a mushy tip with a Ned rig, it'd be amazing. Alright, so I'm going to back up a second to this Castaway Tyrannus. You can throw a shaky head on this rod too if you have to, just for that extra sensitivity. Alright, so that's going to be 2. That's going to be 2 down. And my third and final one would be, let me find it right here in my face. Good thing I ain't a rattlesnake, I'd been bit. And this will shock you. It's actually going to be another Dixie Custom. This rod retails for $159.99. You can get it at, well, Dog Patch Trading Post. And it is a 7'7" meat stick. This is a heavy action rod. And the reason why I pick a 7'7" over my 7'11" is you just got more control over it. I mean, it's still long enough and made stout enough. You can flip in Florida if you're going to. You can actually put 20-pound line on here. That's why I got on here now. You can still throw an Alabama rig on here if you need to. And you can still jig fish with it if you need to. And that's why I actually use this rod for. I jig fish, and I could actually throw an A-rig on here and be just fine. I can throw like a S-waver on here and be fine. The only thing I wouldn't throw is like a super gigantic swim bait. That's like your jackals and stuff like that, and your Huddleston. So, A-rig, jig, a heavier shaky head, a Carolina rig, a Texas rig, a flipping rig. You're going to be set up. Alright, so we're going to reboot here. Make sure we got everything covered here. Well, alright, so we got jig, shaky head, Carolina rig, Texas rig, A rig, and also a flipping one. So that's 6 with just that Dixie Custom alone. With that spinning reel, you got a drop shot, a small swim bait, a Ned rig, a floating worm. You could also get away with like a very, very light shaky head, and you can also float a fly. So that's 6 on that. So you are up to 10 plus 2. That is 12 so far. And then with that Castaway setup, you could go crankbait, jerkbait, topwater, 1/8 ounce to all the way up to like a 3/16 ounce shaky head or a 1/4 ounce shaky head, be just fine. So you're up to 4. You got, man, I done named off so many I'm going blind. Alright, so crankbait, jerkbait, topwater, shaky head, chatterbait, spinnerbait. So you're up to 6 on that. So with just 3 rods, you got 18 different things you can do. And that's incredible. And with Tatulas, you ain't got to worry about backlash. Put that thing on 11 and let her rip. So, 18 different techniques you can do on just those. And that's amazing. Alright, but also on that meat stick, if you're in Florida and you need to slap some braid on it to frog fish, you go for it. Or to flip with, you go for it. Alright, so that's 3 of my rod and reels down. That's also 3 that I'd trust anywhere around the country. So, now we are just going to keep going in order here. And my 4th one I'm going to go over is actually going to be one that's shocking to you all. And that's going to be my $60 Denali Rocket Rod, 6'6", and a Daiwa Tatula 100, and a 7:1 gear ratio. And this rod and reel here, I mean, 200, well, a little over $200, you are getting an amazing outfit. What I'd use this rod for, and what I got this reel on here for, is jerk baits. I can throw like all the way down to like a Lucky Craft SP pointer, and I can throw my hidden spooks, I can throw my Ricos, and be just fine. So that's actually gonna be nothing, and that's just where I could have another bait on that one on my Castaway. All right, so that's gonna be four. I went over where I throw on all of them. That 6'6", it don't make a good crankbait rod. It it makes them wobble in the air, and it just gives you a headache. All right, so now we're gonna pick my fifth one, and this here I actually just got, but I love it. I've had one of these before. I ended up broke it, and I can do about anything on this rod. It's my Quantum Tour PT Edition 7-foot medium heavy, and I have it paired with my Daiwa Tatula SV in an 8:1 ratio, and I actually go 14-pound line on here, and it's actually monofilament. And people's just like, why are you so mono on that? Well, here's why. Because with this rod, if I want to, I can throw a buzz bait. If I want to, back in heavier brush or coming through stick ups, I can throw a spinner bait on it. It still has that tip. I can throw a chatterbait on it. I can jig fish with it. I can Texas rig with it. I can Carolina rig fish with it. I can shaky head fish with it. And I can throw all that on it and be just fine. I can also throw my spooks and all that. So, this here, I would throw any of that. And the reason why I got 14-pound mono on it is if I want to throw a buzz bait, it's heavy enough, it's going to float. And when I throw a buzz bait, I'm throwing it I'm throwing it over submerged grass like you see milfoil or coontail, and you have that much of water over top of it. So that's when I throw a buzz bait. Alright, so when I need to Texas rig something, I got enough line power, I guess you could call it, to really drive that hook in the fish's mouth. Because I Texpose my plastics, I think that's what it's called, and I have enough penetration power to not only bring that hook out of the plastic, but to penetrate that fish's mouth. So I really set the hook on it. Same way as a jig. A jig, you got a big weed guard. So that fish is just chewing on it, and I have enough power to make that weed guard just push on down and penetrate that hook. So that there is an amazing rod. So that is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth choice. And that was a shocker deal. My sixth is going to shock y'all too. It's my lowest end combo I own. It's just a little loose speed spin. They don't make these no more. I think they was like a $40 reel. And it's going to be my Berkley Lightning rod. And I mean, this rod and reel, $100 at most. It's a 7-foot medium heavy rod. And I can't say enough about this rod. You are getting a whole lot of bang for your buck with this rod. Because you can, and here's everything I've used it for. You can Texas rig with it like a light finesse Texas rig, like a 16th ounce weight. And you can also Rico fish with this rod. This was my Rico rod till I bought one. And you can also jerk bait fish with it. A lot of people don't jerk bait fish with a spinning reel. And that is so shocking to me. Because you can downsize your line. And it's just an amazing finesse technique. You can shaky head fish with this rod. You can also drop shot with this rod. A lot of people don't drop shot with a stiff rod like this. But I've done it when I didn't have enough to do nothing with. And I'm not making fun of that. I've been in that scenario where you have 3 rods. That's why I've done that. You can tube fish with this rod. You can Ned rig with this rod. You can float a worm with this rod. And I just can't say much enough. Like I said, it's just an amazing budget rod. And I don't get paid by any of these companies to say this. I'm just like you. I'm having to pay full price. So right there, if I had $100 and I was just getting into bass fishing, that's what I'd pick. All right, so moving on. Oh man, we are gonna go to a rod and reel I hate, and I mean it's a good rod and reel. I just don't like it. I know I got something I don't even like. It is a 6'10" medium light Dixie Custom, and it has that little short handle. I hate it. 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 And I have it paired with a Daiwa Tatula 1000. This reel, it was my favorite spinning reel until I picked up a Shimano. And like I said, bait casting, I'm a Tatula man. But spinning, Daiwa. You guys step up your game. Because this here, like, it just ain't got the drag a Shimano does. A Shimano drag is the most crisp sounding and smoothest drag on a spinning reel out there. And I've lost more fish on this rod and reel than I have all season on any other rod. I cannot get fish in the boat with this rod. If I get fish in the boat, it's luck. Alright, so let's talk about what I'm going to throw on this rod and reel. And I'm going to throw a floating worm. That's if I'm floating it around trees, because I actually got enough backbone in this rod to get them up out of there. And this here, I can throw a lighter tube. I ain't done that yet, but it'd be great. I could also throw a drop shot. I ain't done that yet, but I already know it'd work. And what I actually use this rod and reel for is a Ned rig. And that's just because I have enough sensitivity in this rod and enough stiffness. I don't like a real flimsy rod with a Ned rig. And that's the only downside to that 7'6" medium light. Alright, so I got 4-pound Seaguar and VizX on here, and that's us finesse stuff. Alright, so moving on. That was my 7th pick. My 8th pick, it is honestly going to shock you. And that's another Denali Rocker Rod and another Daiwa Tatula 100. And this is actually my 7-footer. And the reason why it's so late in the arsenal picking is because really I can only do about 3 things. Well, I can do actually 5 things, but what I use it for is 3 different things. And what I can do with this rod, I could throw a top water like a Rico or a Spook or a buzzbait. I'd be fine probably. But I can also jerkbait fish with it. I can also swim bait fish with it. I can also spinnerbait and chatterbait fish with it. But what I use it for is a crankbait and a backup topwater. And this here, it just has the right length, the right action to actually load up. Because a lot of people you see them throw like that with a crankbait. I'm way different. That picture that's actually on my Facebook, and you and ask Josh, I come around and then I throw. I literally go half turn. And that's to give that rod time to load and deload. And that's because I get further distance. I ain't got to worry about my crankbait wobbling as much in the air and backlashing. Because I throw my Tatulas loose. Just like this one here. It is actually set on 7. So, I come back and half turn. Alright, top order, same way. So, this here is 7 1-to-1. I can actually throw a spinnerbait on it. I've done it. I feel comfortable doing that. And I have 12 pound 12-pound monofilament on here. And that's when them treble hooks you get in that fish's mouth with a crankbait. I ain't just setting the hook. My line actually gives because mono stretches, and that just allows them to actually get in them more. Because usually when them fish feel pressure, they turn to fight or they go down, and that they basically set the hook on themselves. Alright, so that was number 8, I do believe. Alright, moving on. My 9th would be my big, heavy flipping setup. 711 casting rod, and I think this is just a standard heavy. Mod Fast Heavy. 17 to 65 pound line, half ounce to 2 ounce. So you are going to be getting in a big boy on this. But you will know it if you fish with this all day. And I have it paired with a 6-3-1 Daiwa Tatula SV. No, it's not SV. This is a 150 Daiwa Tatula 6-3-1 150H. So this here's a big boy. And this here has 20 pound monofilament on here. And what I'd throw this rod for is punching, flipping, A-rigging, and big swim baiting. That is about it. And the reason why this is so late in the arsenal is strictly because I do not much with this rod. Man, I ain't got enough tip to do nothing. It's just a big meat stick. If you were down in Florida or down in Texas or Louisiana or big swim bait fish a lot, like down on Gunnersville or Chickamauga or out on Clear Lake in California, and you need something really, really heavy, then this would be your go-to. But like I said, if you fish with this rod all day, you're going to feel it a couple hours later. It ain't no baby. Let me just tell you that. It's the heaviest rod and reel I own. Alright, and my last one is going to be my dedicated topwater. It's my Tour KVD 6'6", medium heavy, and my Daiwa Tatula 100 XS. This is an 8:1 ratio. And I actually had 20 pound line on here, and I downsized to 12. And this rod and reel, this was my number 1 high-end rod and reel that I ever bought myself. And I actually had 3 of them. I had this one, and I had the actual KVDs, of gray and black and a little bit of red. And this was my go-to rod and reel. I threw Senkos, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, topwaters, jigs. This was my go-to rod and reel before I experimented with anything else. And the reason why this is so late in the arsenal is, number 1, it's your rod and reel. Now it's just a topwater rod for me. I don't throw anything else but topwater. Every now and then you see me put a jerkbait on it. And that's just because it's a little bit stiffer than my Denali's. And that's because I'm looking for that quick, erratic action. Alright, so this rod and reel was rod. It is so old. I've caught 2 carps on it. I've caught, I don't know how many turtles on it. I've caught my PB bass on it. And it's just been put through the works. I've had 3 guides on this rod and a tip. And it's already needing a whole nother eye. And the butt is destroyed on here. So this was my workhorse. Alright, but topwater, that's about it for this rod and reel. Alright, so I'm not sure if I went over it, but I had about $400 in crankbaits go out of the boat on our lake. So now I have 0 crankbaits and 0 jerkbaits. So now I gotta replace it. I actually have from now to early fall, beginning of fall to replace them, so I ain't too worried about it. I know the crankbaits I'm going to buy. I know the jerkbaits I'm going to buy. And it's going to be totally different from what was in that box. What you'll see me be getting is Spro Rock Crawlers, 13 Fishing Loco Specials, and you may see some 1.5s and some Rapala DTs in there. That's going to be my crankbaits and my jerkbaits. You may see a couple smaller Lucky Craft SP pointers. That's going to be it. So instead of $400, I'm going to be spending roughly $250 because I don't crankbait fish a lot. The crankbaits I throw is the Spro Rock Crawlers. So that's going to be it. This winter, you'll be seeing me throw a Rapala DT or a Rapala Shad Rap. And that's going to be it. Alright, so those are my top 3 rods that I'd take anywhere around the country. Alright, so let's see here. Total it up. I'm just going to calculate it like you did get the Stratic. So that's going to be $229. And say you actually got 7'6" medium line or a medium rod. We're just going to put that in there at $159. So you're knocking at the door of $400 roughly for one combo. Alright, so $400, and then we're actually going to be saving money. You get the Denali Rocker Rod, 7-foot, medium, and a Daiwa Tatula CT. So it's going to be $229. So rounded off at $230 before tax. So you're at $630. And then you get your meat stick and another Daiwa Tatula CT. That's going to put you roughly at $900. Alright, so I know it sounds like a lot of money, and you ain't got to go that route. That's just what I own, what I would take around the country. But honestly, some honorable mentions that would be cheaper options is get you a SLX, and that comes in at $100, and a Daiwa Tatula CT, that's going to be $229. You get your Shimano, I think it's Naxos, and I think that's $79.99. And then just get you I would probably go with either a PAL or a Berkley, and that's going to be putting you about $150. So that's going to be $350 right there, well, roughly. And then for swim bait, I'd actually go with not swim bait, but my jig setup, I'd actually probably go with, if I was on a budget, I would still go Daiwa Tatula. So that's going to be a CT. That's $129. And I'm trying to think of a good rod. Pretty reasonable. Probably going to go with a I won't say Cashion, but those is $129 for the cheapest one. So we're just going to throw Cashion in there. Under $500, easy. Get you whatever you need. And actually, you ain't got to spend that. If I had to take one rod, it's going to be a spinning rod. And it's going to be at Berkley, and probably going to have a Naxos on it. So $100. Alright, so that's going to be my number one if I pick one rod. And my top 3 in my rod and reel arsenal. I told you what I'd use each rod for. I told you most of the line on them. And the reason why I didn't tell you on all of them is because it duplicates. I got duplicates of rods that I can throw a jig or a Texas rig on and be just fine, or a Carolina rig. And I have some rods, I actually have 2 rods I can throw whatever I need to on. And those is both going to be my bait casters. So, you've seen my rod and reel arsenal. I talked about it. I'm pretty happy with what I got. The only thing I don't like is that Dixie and that Tatula. And that's strictly because I lose so many fish on that 610. And it ain't nothing wrong with Dixie Custom. I love them. And whenever I do get rid of that rod and reel, I'm going to upgrade it to a Stratic, and I will be getting another Dixie. And it's probably going to be a 7-foot medium. So that's going to be my dedicated Ned rig and floating worm. And it'd be customized how I'd want it. Dwayne does an amazing job over at Dixie Custom, making sure that not only are you satisfied, but he gets everything to your specifics. If you want Fuji guides, he can order them. If you want a Tennessee handle, he can do it. If you want solid cork, he can do it. If you want it done in that, well, wrong one. If you want it done in the Cashion CTX, I think it is, get it here. Come on. If you want it done with that, he can do it, and it's just amazing. And not only are they amazingly sensitive, but they are high quality stuff. Alright, so we are knocking at the door about 40 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up. If you enjoyed the intro, make sure to leave in the comments. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the song for my intro to my video. I'm just going to let it play and do whatever. Alright, but it's getting there to be 38 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up. As always, be sure, be safe, have fun, give God all the glory, because none of this would be possible without Him. Be sure to check out Kurt Singer Sunride Outfitters, Dog Patch Trading Post, Saddlebrook Outdoors, and the Tackle Spot. And as always, have fun fishing and take a nothing with you. I'm out. Boom!